Heyo, Zenpuck here. Another day not working for the man. Alright, today's episode of Questions from Friends, this is an easy one, and I can actually tell you about my first-hand experience, okay? So, my friend asked me, is Betterment good, okay? For those of you who don't know, Betterment is, app slash website. They are, I think, they were one of the first in the robo-advisory space, okay? I mean, these days they're also branching out to like savings accounts, but I'm just gonna talk about its capacity as a robo-advisor and what I thought about it, because I did use it maybe a couple of years ago, right? Generally, I'm gonna talk about robo-advisors just generally for a second. I think the concept is very fine, right? It's essentially, a collection of ETFs that they tailor based on your risk profile, and then they charge you a little bit of fee depending on how much assets you have with them. The fee is relatively low, so I don't really think about that as a problem or anything like that. And their big feature, I think, that they talked about is tax loss harvesting and rebalancing for you, right? So every year, depending on what your risk profile is. So this all sounds pretty good so far, right? And I think this is why apps like this or services like this has really kind of pushed all the big players to also do something similar, right? Because Betterment exists, Vanguard and Schwab are both doing, rolling out products that essentially mimics this type of behavior, or doing some hybrid version of robo-advisory plus some sort of in-person consultations for a subscription fee, which is the same thing as kind of the fee that Betterment charges you. The difference is a subscription fee might be just set in stone per month, versus Betterment, which charges you based on the asset you have for them, right? So far so good. They are ahead of the game. They were one of the first. So what was my experience with them like? I would say I used them for a year and then I stopped, and I'll tell you why. Okay, I was one of the riskiest profiles that they've gotten because I don't need the money. Okay, I think I put like 100 grand in there or something, and I only used them for a year. And really, what I was doing is comparing their performance to Personal Capital's consultation service, right? Personal Capital, if you guys don't know, they're kind of like a Mint equivalent with a heavier emphasis on the equities, the stock side. Okay. They also charge a fee, but they also have an in-person consultation option, right? So I used both of those, and I ended up not continuing with either of those because their performance were very, very similar in a year that wasn't great for the market, but wasn't terrible either, right? So I essentially made even money. Okay. What I realized was that about Betterment specifically is that, like, for one thing, it's really easy to just copy their entire portfolio yourself. Okay, it's very easy to find out what in ETFs they're actually buying for, the aggressive investor versus the non-aggressive investor, right? I'm pretty sure they spell it out on their website. Like these are the list of ETFs that they actually buy. So you might ask, well, obviously they're charging you not just because they're buying a certain allocation of ETFs, because anyone can do that. You can definitely do that, okay? But what they're charging you for is the other, supplementary services like tax loss harvesting or rebalancing, right? For one thing, here's why I don't put too much thought into these things. Rebalancing, I think, is overrated. Okay, let me be clear. Okay, let's say a really generic example, right? You got 60% stocks and 40% bonds, right? And a year later, your stocks did great. Now it's 70-30, so it's no longer your preferred percentage of 60-40. Okay. What rebalancing is supposed to do is that you sell some stocks and buy bonds, so you're back to 60-40. Okay, don't do that. Okay, you know what you should do? If your stocks is now 70% and your bonds are 30%, you should check your portfolio and simply buy more bonds until the proportion is 60-40 again, or whatever your desired percentage is. Because I'm assuming, since you're investing, you have not hit the retirement age yet, right? For most of you, I'm guessing that's the stage of life that you're in, right? So instead of, kind of playing with the same pot of money that's always there, you should be investing more every year anyway. So why would you need to, sell stocks or any kind of positions to rebalance? What you should be doing is making up for the percentage change by dumping more money into the market, okay? This achieves two things. One, you are personally responsible for all of your own investment, right? You should be looking at your portfolio at least once a year, okay? I'm not talking about, don't make it your side hustle or something, right? I'm not asking you to day trade, but you should look at it once a year, and whenever it's off, what I'm asking you to do is just put in more money. And the other reason why I'm saying that is because I think I've mentioned my philosophy in investing. It's buy and hold forever. Okay, you should never be selling any positions at all. Okay, until you really need the money. I'm not saying that you can never sell any positions, right? Because otherwise you don't. All these gains are just on paper, right? Until you sell something, you don't actually get the money, right? But my point is, for most of us who are in the middle of our investment journey, right? Don't think about selling, okay? These are all money that you don't need for 5 to 10 years at least. So just keep buying the assets that you think will properly allocate you. So there you go. You don't need some robot to do rebalancing, because when they sell, then there's all sorts of other complications that comes in, right? By the way, if you stick to this plan where you just buy more to reach the proper allocation, you never have to think about the second part that Betterment does for you, which is the tax loss harvesting, right? For those of you who don't know what that is, it just means they can give you some tax advantages when you sell for a loss to offset some of your gains. But if you never sell, you never realize any losses, okay? So the other thing is, even if you're selling positions to cover the proper allocation, to be honest, you're aiming to not lose money, right? So why would you need, advanced technology to help you offset losses, okay? If you have a loss, again, if you're down in a position, just don't sell it. Keep it forever, okay? Hold your breath, keep it forever, okay? I'm telling you, human beings are terribly bad at timing the market, right? You could look that up on the internet. Everyone will tell you that they agree with me on that one, okay? Human beings individually are terrible at timing the market, all right? Now, you might think, hey, I'm special. I've made lots of money selling single positions on, stocks. Okay, you might be correct for the last 10 years, and it only takes you another year or two for you to fail spectacularly. Okay, let me be clear. Individuals are terrible at timing the market. It doesn't mean that you can't win occasionally, or even 10 years in a row, but over the course of a lifetime, you will lose. Okay? Simple as that. You just won't be lucky 50 years in a row. You will not. Okay? And usually, the year when you lose big is when you lose your shirt. Okay, so don't sell individual positions. And by doing that, following that advice, you won't need tax loss harvesting at all. Okay, so both of these things that Betterment talks about, their big seller, why they charge you a minor percentage. It's just not that useful, right? Like, if you want to feel good, you want to brag to your friends about how cool AI is, sure, I guess use it. I don't think it's a bad service. I just don't think the value that they provide is worth what's like a quarter of a point that they charge, right? And you might think a quarter of a point is really low. Sure, but most ETFs and broad market index funds charge you 1/25th of a point. So that's a huge difference, right? Quarter of a point to maybe a tenth of that. That will still end up on the compounding scale, right? So why spend your money on wasteful things that don't matter, when you personally should be checking your your investments on the regular anyway. Once a year is the very least you can do, right? And the thing is, some of you might be like, oh, it's boring, I don't want to do that. Well, I mean, it's money, right? Who doesn't like money? I hope when you have some money, it becomes less boring for you, right? You'd be happy to look at your portfolio because you're like, yes. And when you feel that way, then you're gonna do more research on your own and finally figure this thing out, like your neighbors haven't. Okay, let's be clear. As much as I love chit-chatting about the subject, I know I'm not going to change the minds of most people. I'm totally happy with that, right? It makes me feel better, okay, comparatively speaking. I already feel pretty good, but whenever I see people make poor financial decisions, always makes me feel great. Like, I really do. It makes me feel like a genius. Thanks, guys.